Welcome to Season 3 of Malevolent Autopsy. I'm your host, Queen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so excited to be here with you all. Now, let me warn you, this show contains major spoilers for everything in Malevolent as of the day this episode is published, so if you're not caught up, I'm not liable. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to ask my lovely co-host, what part of Arthur's body are you betting on getting injured this week?
Howdy, hello. This is Vol Control. I use he, him pronouns, and looks like I struck out on last week's bet. Not even a hand injury, much less a finger. But you can't win them all. Judging by this week's chapter, I'm betting Arthur is going to injure his flexor digitorum brevis.
Fuck you. You definitely don't just fucking know that. So what is that?
That is the major muscle on the, center bottom of your foot.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean,
you're getting very specific.
His feet are already fucked up. I mean, it's autopsy, right? We got to bring in the medical terms.
I guess. Yeah. Maybe a med student out there will be benefiting from our anatomy lessons, quote unquote.
We're helping them with their study guide.
Yeah, that's it. Would you like to deliver our summary this week?
I would love to. Well, this week the horrors do be persisting. In a turn of events that was predictably unpredictable, what we all knew or feared would happen did not happen. Before Arthur can do a brutal murder, a mysterious figure beats him to it. Arthur manages to grab the lighter before running for his life among the rest of the prey, finally finding a hiding place, a den of sorts, with one of these naked men that scurry like animals. But not for long, as their pursuer arrives, cornering them like rats. Arthur gets hosed down with something awful, but luckily he only has to deal with being stinky. The other man is not so lucky. John regales Arthur with the most horrific and awful description of the man being turned into soup. Rat soup, apparently, as one emerges from what's left and comes for them. And wouldn't you know it, pest control is on the job. After dispatching the awful rat thing, the man, the rat catcher as he calls himself, deigns to acknowledge Arthur. In typical Arthur Lester fashion, Arthur can't resist pestering a guy just trying to do his job in whatever strange new dimension he finds himself in. The bell rings again in the distance. Arthur asks which way to go. The rat catcher points left. The bell seems to be coming from the right. Which way do we go?
That was such a good chapter.
Yeah, it was. It was so intense. I honestly, I was going to ask you, did you have to throw your headphones off at any point in this chapter?
I didn't.
Impressive. You have truly grown as a person. I'm really, really proud of you.
I would be really curious to go back. I haven't actually listened to Oscar's arm getting chopped off since the first time I heard it. So I'd be really interested to see if I could stomach that now. But it was really hard. Like the sounds of... First of all, the description, and second of all, the sounds was really hard. I was definitely gritting my teeth and doing a lot of this too shall pass in my brain.
Yeah.
The horrible description can't go on forever. It has to stop sometimes.
I don't know.
It was really tough.
I don't know. Don't challenge Harlan Guthrie to how long could this realistically go?
I haven't looked at the transcript yet. I would love to see how actually sentence-wise, how long that description is. Because to me, it felt like forever. It felt so long. I was like, wow, this is... John, I don't know if this is necessary, sir.
Yeah, I love always listening when the chapter drops with you. But this one, I was enjoying it, but also I was like, oh no, I hope Queen isn't just stomach turning, hands on the headphones about to throw them across the room.
That is something I actually have mentioned to, I was mentioning to Ren in DMs a little bit ago. Malevolent, I think one of the biggest things Malevolent has done for me is increase my tolerance for things.
Yeah.
Especially descriptions of horror. There was a point where right before I got into Malevolent, I was trying to read a book and it was a a murder mystery, and the description of the climax was so awful that it made me, nauseous and physically ill, and I
Yeah.
felt really like crappy, and it was so sad because it was like a good book, but
Right.
I couldn't enjoy it because I was just so distressed by the
Yeah,
description,
I
and
get you.
that I don't feel like I would have as hard a time anymore. Now, I will say too that if this is something that I was specifically mentioning, if you had told me that Malevolent contained even half of the trigger warnings that it does, I probably, before I listened, I
Yeah,
probably would not have
no,
listened.
no. If I had gotten further than the first 30 seconds of the first episode before telling you that you needed to listen to it, I might have been like, maybe I should hold off and see just how bad this gets.
Yes, yeah. And I'm very proud of that. Like, I'm very proud of myself for getting through a podcast that, not just getting through a podcast, but really, really enjoying a podcast
Yeah.
that I didn't feel that I could handle before. And I think that's one of the reasons why Harlan has the philosophy about quote unquote spoilers that he does, because it really taught me how much I keep protecting myself unnecessarily. And
Totally.
it keeps me from ever being uncomfortable, and it keeps me from ever growing beyond what I'm comfortable with.
Sure.
And
Yeah, yeah.
so I don't get to experience a lot of new stuff because I'm so scared of feeling a negative thing for a little bit. But this has really taught me, like, how to get better at that in a really safe and practical way, where it's like, it's just a podcast, I can see how long it's going to be, I can stop at any time, it's very controlled and very safe.
And also, the high points are so worth it. It is so
Oh my
worth going through
god.
the horrors for the
Yeah,
hopes.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this chapter was so phenomenal. I think Harlan did actually say in the chapter channel, I think it's his best episode. He's
Yeah.
the proudest of it, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, and he deserves it. It's great.
Yeah. So, now that our babbling is over, what was your carrot? What was your like favorite thing?
My favorite thing, the thing, okay, I mean, I'm cheating. I'm going to make it kind of two things. Originally, I actually had down the same carrot that you're going to talk about, so I just want to say that up front. That was also my carrot originally. But because I didn't want to overlap, there is a specific malevolent sound like a musical sting or cue
Yeah.
that to me is so comforting because I think it's been here from season one. It's a very iconic set of strings that just like it hits right when action is about to happen at the minute they're like go go go, and in this chapter it came back and I really missed it. It's kind of
Yeah.
like saying an old friend make a cameo in a movie, and
Yeah.
I realized I had this really emotional attachment to this set of strings that randomly play. So it's been here from season one, and it makes me excited every time I hear it. I get really excited for what's about to happen, and usually it's a chase scene or like something action oriented, and it just gets my blood pumping, and I really liked that. So
Yeah.
technically, that's my carrot.
Yeah.
But when we were listening just before the episode, I have a different carrot. But what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I think that that is actually from a sample library. I don't think that's an original Harlan sound.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of those that he has that yeah, they are like old friends, and I think we've talked about how his musical pieces can prime you for an emotion or harken back to another similar moment where that piece played. And so I totally get what you're saying about how that sting is so familiar, and it kind of like gets your heart pumping because you know what accompanies a sting like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's very iconic Malevolent for me. Even though it's a stock track, for me it's Malevolent because that's where I heard it.
Oh, absolutely. So what was your second carrot?
My like mini carrot.
Yeah.
It was something I noticed that I didn't notice before when I listened to this chapter, which is John commenting on the smell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wrote that in my live blog notes. I was like, wait, John has control of the
What the
nose
fuck?
now.
Okay, so like let me just say, because I sometimes I like think about it as if I were Harlan and I was making a show and people were talking about it. I don't want to get so excited about this because I know that Harlan's human and he could have made a mistake, and I don't want to say that like this is a big intentional thing when
Yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
just an oversight, because it's happened before where John will describe something that he technically shouldn't have described, or Arthur will say something that he technically can't see, like if he can tell if it's light or dark in a room or something. And that is so normal, and usually I don't ever catch those until somebody else brings it up.
Right.
But the fact that John commented on the smell, I know it could have just been the fact that like he was writing and it was a detail and he needed to put it in someone's mouth, and so it just came out of John's.
And Arthur's mouth was full of the nasty, bad smelling liquid, so he couldn't say it.
Yeah, well, it would be so cool if we started seeing John peek out of more senses in Arthur, and like, I'm very excited to find out if John's gonna start having access to different things, maybe not 100% of the time, but like maybe during those high moments of, I don't know how to put it, but where they're both kind of unified in a sense, kind of when they overlapped with their sight to see the stars together.
Yeah.
I wonder if John is going to be able to start accessing more of the senses in the dark world.
Yeah, I wonder. Mizra says that John has mentioned the smell of things a couple of times before, and I do remember that because I feel like it was like way back in season 1 when they are going into that like hoarder apartment or going past that like hoarder apartment, he can smell it. And I think maybe again in Hattie's room, maybe he mentions the smell. But I still noticed that in this episode as well, and did wonder that if, because they're in the dark world, because they're both dead, John doesn't have his death visions anymore. That was a notable change. Right. So I do wonder, and like you were saying about the stars, HD also mentions that, yeah, maybe they were like blending again. Their abilities were blending again.
Yeah, and I will say that the brain is involved in a lot of processing your senses, and, you know, there could be some mix-up between, like, I mean, your eyes water when a scent is really, really strong, like onions and stuff. Yeah. Well, I know that's a lot more scientific than I'm willing to explain. But you know what I mean.
It's because the onion attacks you because you are attacking the onion.
Right. In this world, it's kill or be killed, and that includes onions.
Yes, absolutely. Onions are vicious, actually. Yeah. So, what was your stick, friend?
My stick was ew, 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 ew. Oh my God, ew.
This episode was visceral, shall we say?
Oh, ew, ew, ew. I don't want this.
How would you rank it? How would you rank it compared to the maggot cave?
You know what? Actually, this was worse.
Yeah?
This was worse because the maggot cave was disgusting in an audible way where, like, my skin crawled and I was, like, squirming because I was grossed out. But this was, like, I didn't know what that liquid was until Arthur said ammonia and tar. And so I had to come up with what I thought it was. And my first thought was, like, of course, the worst thought for me personally, which I'm not going to say because that's disgusting and I'm a lady. But I am just like, the fact that that was for me a snippet of the horror possible in the dark world where I have to wait for Harlan to tell me how bad it is. Yeah. Which means that I am making up worse. Like, your brain really, I mean, barring some extremes, your brain really is good at conjuring up the worst possible scenario that you can think of.
Yeah, and, my brain's really good at that. Super good at that.
Yes, especially for those of us with, like, anxiety. And the thing is that, like, with Malevolent, sometimes the horror is so bad that you can't imagine it until the author tells you in a way that's, like, supernatural or, you know, of course. And my brain even kind of says, well, that's okay because you imagined this terrible thing, but that's possible and can actually happen, which makes it worse.
Right.
The supernatural thing, like a ghost or, you know, a monster, isn't real, and so it's not as bad as what you were thinking, because even though it's terrible to imagine, that's not real, and it can't happen.
Right.
But because it's just a liquid spraying out of a tube, which is so normal and possible and does happen all the time, I had to put a liquid there, and it was worse than what Harlan put there.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. And so for me, it was just like, oh no, the Dark World's gonna fuck me up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and actually, the ways in which Harlan Guthrie is not writing Lovecraftian horror is that he describes a lot of the horrors because of the medium. Whereas
Yeah.
one of the things about Lovecraft is that his monsters and his horrors are these cosmic horrors that are supposed to be like unfathomable, unimaginable, like to look upon them would to make you mad. And
Right.
I think it's interesting that you bring up how in the way that Harlan does his like soundscaping and action, there are those moments before you get a more clear description where, yeah, you get that Lovecraftian experience of like what horrors can your mind conjure up before you get more context.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking terrible for me and my brainscape. And people in the chat are saying like I was worried that it was gasoline so that, Arthur couldn't light the lighter without catching on fire and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about Arthur's safety. Like not even once.
His cleanliness, please.
I would rather Arthur be dead and clean, actually. You can fucking quote me on that.
Let that man have a shower. I think he has only canonically had one shower. And that's not even confirmed. It's just implied.
Look, Harlan has said Arthur pisses off screen, and so I'm choosing to believe that he also showers and brushes his teeth and gets a haircut and looks perfect and beautiful all the time off screen.
Yep, totally.
In my head, by the way, he's not naked. I mean, he is naked, but he's not naked in my head, and you can't make him naked in my head. So you guys are going to have to deal with the fact that Arthur still is wearing a beautiful three-piece suit from the 1930s, and it doesn't have a scratch on it. And he's wearing shoes. So, like,
incredible.
Nobody can take that away from me.
No.
Anyway.
I mean, no one can take that away from you. Live your truth, queen.
Thank you. What was your carrot this week, Paul?
I mean, I think it's obvious. The fucking rat catcher. That guy is so cool. The sound of his footsteps and then the like introduction of the mask filter on the breathing was so rad. And then when he finally spoke, I was like, yes! Oh, it's so fucking rad. So cool. And like some people thought that it might have been Kellen at first because of the gas mask sounds. But I love that it's just, brand new character, brand new voice, all these effects. And it really brought me back to the moment with the trader in the Dreamlands, where they at first like think that it might be an enemy or something like that, but then you end up having this kind of like fun, almost light-hearted exchange.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it was really good. Can I ask you, what did you envision the mask looking like?
I did envision it looking kind of like a plague doctor mask, which seems to be the general consensus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because John describes it as like a long mask, right?
Right. I think he says it's like long and pointed.
Yeah, and see, it's funny. I've noticed what my brain's... So I have a feeling this is an ADHD thing. Mm-hmm. My brain is really willing to skip over details and act like I didn't hear them at all, even though I fully did. And I will make up visuals in my brain that are not possible because there's details in there to contradict those visuals, but I can't stop seeing the wrong visual, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
When John said long mask, I was actually imagining a vertically long mask. Mm-hmm. And it was, in my brain, it was more like a flat mask where it was more to cover the face in a almost decorative or theatrical style than it was like a functional mask. And so for people to have, I realized people were saying he's more bird-like in their brains. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, why? Oh my God, because he says it's a long pointed mask. It's like a plague doctor mask. Oh, that makes sense. But in my head, he's wearing a really like dramatic ass flat mask.
No, I totally get that. And I think Luna Maria mentions that they were their first thought was a King in Yellow spin-off mask, which is a cool idea.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I'm picturing a Plague Doctor mask specifically now because the idea caught on to do like a sexy Halloween costume version of the Ratcatcher cosplay in the server, and there's like 3 different people in Plague Doctor masks with like super high heels and fishnets on, and it is peak. It is hilarious. He is serving.
It would be hilarious. Things that I want to see are malevolent Halloween costumes, but like sexy. Yeah. So everything is impractically sexy, but it's all malevolent themed, like sexy King in Yellow, sexy Larson.
Arthur
I
Lester,
want sexy Gug.
Arthur Lester is wearing just a waistcoat up top. There's no shirt underneath.
Oh my god. Yeah, I very much loved the Ratcatcher. I loved also that the Ratcatcher is spelled as one word.
Oh, is it? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it is. It is like Ratcatcher is not 2 words, and that is something I learned because I was typing it Ratcatcher as 2 separate words, but in the transcripts they're 1 word, and I actually really like that because it does match the cadence of how Arthur says it when he says goodbye, Ratcatcher.
That is interesting, and it does make it almost like a blend of a title and a name versus just a title, I guess. It's like its own kind of title.
Yeah, I also really like the accent that the Ratcatcher has was really cool too.
Yeah, it's very cool. I don't think I've ever heard Harlan do kind of like a Russian-inspired accent, because that's what I was getting from it.
Yes, definitely. And I also remember that, I don't know if it was the commentaries or if it was an interview, but Harlan is talking about, like, he's doing every voice in the show and they all have to sound distinct. And, how many voices does he have? Well, apparently infinite.
Yes, apparently infinite.
And he had also mentioned that, like, Surveil was a lifesaver because he had the helmet, and the helmet really changes how you perceive a character, and the fact that, like, we can distinguish characters based on the fact that they are muffled or not muffled, and you can kind of tell the difference between 2 identical Scottish accents if one is behind a helmet and one isn't. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think we're gonna get some really cool effects on voices like that this season, because he's first of all, I will be so impressed if he doesn't have to do that at some point, because he's done so many voices and you have to be able to separate all of them. But also, I really liked this one, and I really thought it was fitting for the character.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I love the Ratcatcher.
Yeah.
Good character.
Yeah. Or Harlan's going to have to reuse voices, as in bring back characters from other seasons.
I'm clenching my fist so hard right now because I am normal. Anyway, what was your stick?
My stick this week is also another carrot, because I'm really excited about going into the unknown. I'm super excited. The dark world is our oyster right now, and I am just really excited that no matter what vote wins this week, we are heading off and we're going to go see more of the dark world.
I was on this tirade last vote about how I was so tired, not last vote, but like the vote before maybe, about how I was so tired of being stuck inside places.
Yeah.
And I want to see the fucking world.
Yeah.
I want to go exploring, damn it.
Yeah.
And no one is going to stop me.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to more of the, like, exploring the Dreamlands vibes, just, like, being out in the open. I'm totally with you. I'm done being trapped inside of castles and bogs and basements.
And, like, liminal space where Kane is just floating us in the void. I know we're not talking about... I know we're not talking about Kane and 52 anymore, but I still am thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I, like, didn't picture scenery for 52. It was a black void.
Yeah, I think technically they were still in the clearing in the bog, but I think John also mentions that it, like, sort of fades away or, like, fades into the background.
I don't know, but, like, I'm realizing that I think every time Kane's been on screen, I don't really see a setting anymore in my brain.
Yeah.
And that includes when they first meet, which is, isn't it like a theater?
Yeah. It's like I think it is like a amphitheater, like the top of some stairs or near the top of the stairs.
Yes, and so I'm just realizing, like, I think Kane gets into my brain and magically zaps away the background to completely focus on him, which is probably what he would appreciate
Intentional,
right now.
yes, yes.
No, no. Shall we talk about the vote?
Do we want to let's listen to a voice submission? We got a couple of little messages from Gogoat this week talking about the Dark World setting and expectations, and I thought that might be fun to touch on before we dive into the vote.
Sure, absolutely. Let's do that.
Hello Autopsy friends, this is Gogoat. I use any pronouns, and although I don't have much to say about this week's vote, I've had a Dark World ramble stewing in my head for a few weeks that I want to share. Also, this is absolutely going to be 2 messages, but bear with me, I have thoughts. So in chapter 261, Arthur asks how they got into the tower, and John says, "We have always been here." And that made me think a little bit about what John says in part 1, all the way at the beginning, where he says that the Dark World is without time entirely. I really like this idea that they were always in the Dark World because it exists beyond time. Everything that has died or will die is already there. In the Dark World, John and Arthur have always been dead. Which made me think they could potentially meet characters who aren't technically dead yet in the Dark World. Sure, like characters like Oscar or Noel, dead yet in the timeline, but since there's no time in the Dark World, there's no such thing as yet in the Dark World.
Thank you for your submission, Gogoat.
Gogoat is the goat for mentioning Noel. We didn't have to bring him up. Somebody else brought him up.
Touch it. Yes, I'm still on track. I'm gonna start a new streak this season for not being the first one to bring up
Oh my god.
Charlie.
Oh my god, I love that. I just thought I thought it was really interesting what they were saying about this sort of concept of always having been in the dark world versus like if you're alive, are you still in the dark world? Is everybody always in the dark, like simultaneously? Are we all Schrodinger's cat? Are we Schrodinger's cat in the dark world? How does it work?
Yeah, that was a fascinating bit of lore that we got off the Ratcatcher where, first of all, the Wheezing Men. What do you mean, the Wheezing Men?
Yeah.
And second of all, they were trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you dead is like, that packs a lot. There's a lot. Can we go back, sir?
Yeah.
Can you?
Like, do those words mean what I think they mean? Are you using them in the typical way? Like, what do you mean that they were trying to keep us dead and safe? It's safer to be dead in the dark world. I mean, I guess it's better than being conscious in the dark world, but you can't do anything if you're dead.
I wonder, yeah, I'm really eager to learn more about that specific aspect, especially because, yeah, it's haunting that the idea that you might be better dead and better safer in the dark world as a dead person, but I feel like that has an even deeper meaning that we're not going to be aware of for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested because my thought is that it's similar to the idea of zombies maybe, where something worse can happen to you that isn't just the typical torture or returning back to life or whatever. I think there is something
wrong.
the dark world can. Yeah, I think there is something specific the dark world does to people who are not laying peacefully in coffins. And so I'm very interested to see how that manifests. I also want to know why the fuck the rats were taking the shape of people.
I don't know. So many questions. But Gogoat did submit a second message. Shall we listen to that one?
Perfect. Yes, we will.
We could potentially get insight on events yet to pass in the land of the living, since here they've all already happened. We could go on a whole other rant about how the dark world could work as like a tool for telling the future. Thinking about that since part 4, where Kellen was singing Plastic Jesus, because he was hearing a song from the dark world that the Vanguard was hearing. Harlan does always love leaving bits of foreshadowing and hints of the future, so I would not be surprised if we get a bit of insight onto votes yet to come and like some kind of warning from a character later on. As for my vote, I'm voting to go the direction the Ratcatcher pointed, because I will do anything to hear more of that character. I like him a lot. Hopefully that wasn't too incoherent. Bye-bye.
Gogoat. No, not at all. Not incoherent at all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your submission.
Yeah, and Gogoat mentioning that Kellen's Vanguard might have fed him the Plastic Jesus song from the future because those things have already happened in the Dark World. Some people were theorizing that the something wants to get your attention that the Ratcatcher mentioned might be Yorick or the Vanguard that we have worked with before.
Do you have thoughts about what the bell that they're hearing could be?
No. I'm in it though. Like the GM has given me a hook and I am hooked.
Yeah. I am very much like, at first I really didn't have any theories or ideas, and I've seen all of them. I think I've seen pretty much all of the potentials that people are coming up with. And it's not that I don't think any of them are possible. It's just that I can't even begin to think about it logically yet. And I think so my brain's like, I don't fucking know. I'm gonna give you a big shrug emoji. What do you want me to fucking say? We're in a place that we're so unfamiliar with that I don't know what's gonna be around the next corner, let alone what that bell is. I do hope that it is neutral. I actually don't want it to be good or bad. I think I just want it to be a fucking bell.
Amanda the Cryptid also said that it could be like for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for the king, and it might be something to summon John specifically. That's very interesting.
I have things to say about Amanda the Cryptid and Luna Maria when we start talking about the vote.
Well, let's start getting into it. What are you voting this week, Queen?
What am I voting this week? Well, I'm going to say first that the poll is follow the man's direction versus attempt to follow the sound. And right now, follow the man's direction is at 54% versus attempt to follow the sound, which was 46%. That's 457 votes total.
Wow.
And Vol.
Yes.
Can you do your fancy numbers thing while I explain a little bit about Booth John? So this chapter did another double reach around a little bit where Booth John's dialogue did not exactly match up with what we thought the vote was going to be, which was just right or left. I mean, that's what I thought it was going to be, right or left. It wasn't. It was these two very specific phrases. And again, we have people waiting to see the vote to see what was going to happen with it. And that word attempt is doing some work for people voting on that side, and that was kind of one of the bigger arguments, well, one of the arguments for voting to follow the man's direction, which we'll talk about in a second. But Vol, what were those numbers?
So the exact numbers were 247 votes for follow the man's direction and 210 votes for attempt to follow the sound. So another really close one.
Yeah, and we have done one of the first successful, well, it's actually the first successful flip campaign of the season, but it's one of the first successful flip campaigns in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we have been talking as the number of total voters has climbed and climbed and climbed. We have been talking about how we are not sure that we would be able to ever pull off a flip again because there's only so many people who are active in the Discord, and only so many of those people are active in the poll chat and interested in these campaigns or in changing their mind or things like that. And so, yeah, it was really cool to see a flip. And of course, it happened the week that I was really, really busy with real life. And so I stuck my head into poll chat like all of 3 times for like 5 minutes.
First of all, I'm going to point out that when Vol says we, as in we didn't think we could do a flip campaign anymore, he means like a collective we, not includes Queen we, because I have been saying for so long that people just need to believe it can happen, and it can happen.
Oh
and
my
I
God,
was so
Queen, you're
tired of
such
people
a dirty
telling me,
fucking liar. I listened back to Autopsy, okay?
People have been telling me for so long that we can't flip anymore and there's no point in it anymore and it's just too impossible because not enough people are on the Discord. But I've always said we could flip. I knew it, and I got mad when people told me it was not possible.
Oh my god, talk about a flip. Talk about a flip. You have for sure been like, yeah, I don't think that it might not be possible to do anymore. Dirty liar.
I think I was just regurgitating what other people were telling me.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Sure.
But I have actually said to you in DMs how it frustrates me when people are so negative about flipping, right?
No, you are correct.
Okay.
You are correct.
And
it
may
hasn't
not have always been.
It has knowing that the odds get a little bit tougher the more voters we have has not stopped us from continuing to believe that we could do it and campaigning for those flips. So,
yes. Thank you. Because that's really what I was so excited about, was the fact that, like, for me, this vote is so much more than the vote. It's proof that you just need to be invested. Maybe the key is to be as invested as I'm personally invested in the
well,
whole.
and I am gonna play devil's advocate. This is me just.
Why are you advocating for the devil, sir?
I'm just postulating about possible things that could have happened. And like I said, I was not in poll chat heavily this week, so I wasn't there. But I think it's possible that it wasn't so much a flip as it was a lot of new voters later on in the voting period choosing to follow the man's direction. I'm just saying it's possible. I'm just saying that that's what could have happened.
I want you all to envision Vol slowly approaching me with that little argument in his fingers and dropping like a cup full of water over my candle that I have lit and loved since it was a baby. And I want you to just imagine him dousing my light like fucking Lilith, just stepping on it. I have to advocate for the fact that you're wrong. So, I mean, look, I actually think the reality, if I want to be completely, like, pessimistic and real, quote-unquote, realistic about it, is that it was a meme. And people will always go with memes when they don't feel super strongly. And I think this vote actually just had a lot of people who didn't feel so strongly that they weren't willing to be funny.
Yeah. No, there is that. We had a lot of fun. Everybody started changing their display names to include rats in it in some way. We started calling.
Yes.
Everybody was talking about the Rat Pack, and it's been very fun.
Yeah, my vote was to follow the man's direction. How about yours?
That was also my vote from the very beginning. I immediately, as soon as the chapter ended, I was like, my immediate reaction was that we can't trust the direction that the sound seems to be coming from. John seemed so turned around. He wasn't sure which direction it had come from, even when they were hearing it. And even though the rat catcher claims that he hears no bell, I still think that he's pointing us in a direction rather than us trying to wander aimlessly. That's my feeling.
Yeah, and my first instinct was that I don't trust the bare human senses right now.
Yeah.
I don't trust the fact that things are never going to be as they appear. And for me, that included the idea of Arthur trying to navigate solo. And I guess the real cincher for me is that this, I think, marks the second vote where Booth John has given very specific wording to make people question their decision.
Right.
In a way that really leads you to a choice. And it's whether or not to let that influence you or to not. Yes. And the other thing I wanted to mention briefly was that you'll notice we keep saying bell and rat like that means anything, because neither of those words are in this poll. Right. The word rat and bell are nowhere to be found in this fucking poll. And I will just point out that, like, the man that we're talking about is a rat catcher.
Yes.
And we have chosen to embody him as a fucking rat in this poll. So
yeah.
The emojis for this vote were...
We're but simple people, Queen.
The emojis for this vote were a rat and a bell. And attempt to follow the sound, yeah, you could see where that's a bell because the sound sounds like a bell, but follow the man's direction.
Apolloette in the chat says Frankenstein's monster problem. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's very Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, we have made the rat catcher his most cursed creation. So people have like rat emojis in their name right now and bell emojis in their name, and that helps us keep track of who's voting for what when we're talking about the vote, and that can be really important to help signify where you stand when you're in poll chat, because things can go really fast and it can get really confusing, or you can just forget how many times somebody's flipped or whatever.
Yeah.
And people have an emoji to kind of signal their support.
But we do keep it vague so that the non-patrons will see the emojis in our name, and those who know that those are related to the votes will be like, what the fuck is the vote this week?
Yeah, early on when we joined the Patreon, we had shit like peacocks and oysters and people. There were sometimes two options for both sides, so like you would have two different emojis that you could possibly use for a single side of the vote. So there were 4 emojis. Right. Like, it was out of control. But the point is, there was a rat emoji involved, and I actually think that rat emoji and the choice to use it to symbolize this vote was part of the genuine reason the vote won, because the rat emojis, if you haven't seen them, almost universally all rat emojis on phones and mobile and web devices are adorable or funny.
Yes. Yeah.
And so everyone was loving putting them in their name.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of like really strong arguments on either side, really, because there is a lot of unknown, and really what we're doing is we're fucking walking into the wasteland of the dark world either way. It's just which direction, and I guess with what intention. But speaking of funny things, Wanderer Fehn on the Discord, on the Patreon Discord, has been doing these really funny like ad reads for votes for every vote this season so far, and the one that they did for this vote was an incredible alliteration with all R's. It was very funny, and people have been really enjoying those.
Should we, okay, first of all, should we play it right now? And second of all, should we ask Fehn if we can include it in the podcast?
I thought about that. I meant to ask you about it earlier, but I was really busy today. And yeah, I think we should.
I think we should too.
Welcome, patrons one and all, to yet another vote of Malevolent Season 6. I am your resident Waylay Wanderer, and I will be your voice of ridiculous reason and punny opinion. I am glad to report that there is yet another fierce pancake fight in the poll mines. But why, might you ask? Well, my friends, the answer lies with the tolling of bells and the mask-muffled voice of a poor, overworked rat catcher. They really should get that Dark World Union involved. Anyways, we left John and Arthur still naked, slightly less afraid, hopelessly disoriented, and smelling like an awful mix of mystery anti-rat liquid, courtesy of our friendly neighborhood rat catcher. Now, we have a bell ringing to one direction and the rat catcher pointing to the opposite. So, which way do we vote? Well, friends, there are many lovely arguments that many brilliant patrons have posed, but for my weekly persuasion, allow me to simply regale you with a short but riveting take for Follow the Rat Catcher's Direction, brought to you by the letter R. Consider, ringing rackets radiate radically risky repercussions, rarely rewarded and rancorously reaped. But ratify the rise of riotously ravenous rats and raise the radiant rat catcher, his rasp regaling the rightness of reason. Risk not rashly racing for rattled ringing, but react regally and reach the rising realization that rewards rational reactions. Readily risking returning to reality for a radiating ringing? Reconsider. Rely on Ratcatcher. React rightly. This has been a rat-aligned and pirate-approved message in favor of the Follow the Man's Direction for episode 263 of Malevolent, created by Harlan Guthrie.
Fehn is such a fucking gem.
Very good. Very good. I love a good alliteration. And wow, you knocked it out of the park. It was so long. Very impressive.
Really good.
Very impressive.
Yeah. Fantastic. Should we listen to Autumn's voice message?
Let's do.
Hey there, Autumn here again. I probably don't have much to say outside the obvious points here, but I do have a streak to keep up with sending in recordings now, and you'll sooner find me in the dark vault than breaking it. So, I think we should follow the bell, because BJ, if he even is BJ, but that's a whole other can of worms, said not to trust anyone, so we really should rely on our senses and follow the bell. And if the bell is a lure, as people are suggesting, who's luring us? Curiosity may have killed the cat, but we're already dead, so it can't really get much worse. The rat catcher didn't seem to hear the bell either. The sound he heard was different, so the bell may not even be where he pointed. He could just be pointing us towards his sound and not ours, so we wouldn't find the bell if we followed his directions. He could have also just pointed in a random direction to get us to leave him alone. I mean, the rat catching doesn't really usually entail customer service, and he's not getting paid enough to deal with this shit. I think possibly the most interesting thing, though, is that the rat catcher said the wheezing men were trying to protect us by keeping us dead. He may know something we don't, but at the moment, our definitions of safety are vastly different. So I don't think we should trust what he says in case we end up being trapped in his idea of safety. As of now, I've actually flipped to the rat catcher's directions, for points slightly better illustrated by other people, but as you can tell, I was initially very much Team Bell, and since our hosts aren't, I thought I'd lay out the points I came up with, to even the playing field a little. Anyway, that's me. Have a good autopsy.
Thank you, Autumn, and I genuinely do appreciate you realizing that we're both on the same side and trying to give us some perspective for Belle. Vol, I just want to give Vol another million bajillion pats on the back, because Vol does a lot of research in the poll mines to make sure that we do have both sides of the argument covered, even if we can't be as passionate for the other side that we're not voting for. He always goes back and like tries to read through some stuff and get the highlights, and I think that's really valuable. So thank you so much to Vol for doing that for me and for all of you guys, because I think that's a really valuable thing to do, and I just do not have the energy every week to do it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Vol.
You're so welcome. And on weeks like this week, it's really easy. There were a lot of messages in slow poll, but everyone was hitting a lot of the same points. I thought it was really funny. One of the things that I noted down when I was finding arguments for both sides is that some people on the side of follow the man's direction were saying that, you know, the bell, if we go after the bell, we will be wandering aimlessly, whereas the rat catcher is giving us a solid lead. But conversely, the people who were voting to attempt to follow the sound were saying that the bell is a solid lead, whereas the rat catcher could be pointing in any random direction. And so it's really funny that that was one of the arguments that was like, well, yeah, I mean, it really could go either way.
Yeah, this was very much a vote where, like, really started out with people going, like, I don't really care. Not that it's not important, but, like, I'd be happy no matter what.
Yeah.
Because it was very much a right or left choice for them. And I think for all of us, it was right or left for a while, because it's just, like, the possibilities are so endless and the question is so vague and we really don't know what the right decision is.
No, it is not fine either way for me. I feel very strongly about following the man's direction, because I don't trust that sound moves in a normal way in the dark world. I think it is purposefully misleading, and so I think that the fact that the rat catcher pointed in the opposite direction means that that is the direction we should go, or the direction that will be the safer way to find our way to the bell. And so when the fact that attempt to follow the sound was winning for a couple of days in the beginning, and I was worrying as that gap was getting bigger, and so when I saw that it had flipped, I was so relieved, and I was like, okay, I guess I don't need to put on my miner uniform, mining equipment to go into the coal mines.
I think you could say hard hat. That might work.
Okay, there we go. That's much
or
better.
Pick up your
That's much better than mining equipment.
Yeah, I also feel really strongly. I maybe not as aggressively as usual, but I do feel strongly that it's the right decision. I am queen of second guessing myself.
Yes, you're a queen of many things.
Yeah, so I was definitely had my moments where I was like, I don't know, like technically it could be could could not matter either way, and maybe it just doesn't, maybe it's more like if we follow the rat catcher's direction, who's to say that he's even hearing the same sound, which
Right.
I know was a very popular thing to mention. You took some really nice notes about both sides of this, but do we want to cover just a few of the points, or maybe just highlight the notes that you have for both of these? I know we're running a little bit long this session, and I want to make sure.
No, I honestly think that we're getting close to wrap up because I feel like Autumn mentioned a lot of the good points for
Yeah.
the attempt to follow the sound side, and if we talk about them, we're just gonna argue about them. Like, I mean, argue for our side against them, and so I don't want to. We don't have to make this a big debate. It's
No.
we've
Yeah,
we've
I
showed
agree. I
we've
think just making sure
yeah we've heard
that both
from
sides are presented.
yeah exactly.
I do want to say I want to circle back
Uh-huh.
on this thing that I was talking about earlier. So there is a specific, you've heard it on Autopsy. There is a specific kind of logical thought process that goes with like, I either don't have a strong opinion or can't make up my mind. So anyone who can convince me of this thing happening or of how this would benefit this character, I will vote that way. That is not the most popular thing to do in poll chat, but there are definitely times where people will pull it out, like when they can't decide or whatever.
Right.
And there is a character in poll chat who I will be polite and not name for now, who went absolutely goddamn feral over the idea that this bell could somehow be signaling to John, but John as he was in the dark world as like an asshole. And that's very putting it very lightly. It's very clear that John did some very fucked up things in the dark world. And that was like, I'm not kidding you. I was at work in my little cubicle trying desperately to explain how that was not the case until I realized that like the way you're supposed to catch more flies with honey. And so I was supposed to kind of say, this is how your mean little King John fantasy can win if you vote my way. And that was the strategy I had to go with, because trying to convince them that this bell in the distance was not what they thought it was.
Like going like, honey, no.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's
That
not-
doesn't work
that's not
for
gonna work.
people.
You gotta flip
That
it around.
doesn't work for people with delusions.
Yes,
So
yes.
you have to really, like, you have to talk to them as if you're on the same page. So I had to get into character and figure out really where you would come from for this. So I was like, okay, let's pretend that this bell is what you want it to be. And it's actually secretly a bell that's being rung for King John, and they're trying to get back their dark king of the night or whatever Batman power bullshit he was going on. And I managed to say that like the fact that the bell is maybe pulling them towards something, people were using the word lure a lot. The fact that the bell might be a lure, like an anglerfish type thing, I know Fish was using that analogy a little bit. It could very well be true. Something tells me it's not that straightforward, but
Yeah.
let's just say it's something trying to lure them in. They're gonna get there. Like that, they will get to that bell. They will get pulled into that nonsense. And so it's not really about which way you think stops them from getting there. It is about what you think is the best choice in this story. And so my whole thing was, you should really, this is the last season of Malevolent. And if you go straight toward the sound in the direction you think it's coming from and you want to get there because you think that's like the shortest way A to B, you are shortening Malevolent. Don't shorten Malevolent. You gotta like drag it out.
Yeah. Well, and one of the arguments for attempt to follow the sound was that the bell might possibly be moving, but I think that going in the direction that the rat catcher points is as good a starting place as any, because if it's moving, then we're still going to have to navigate to try and find it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that, like, whatever the bell signifies, whatever it's gonna end up being, it's there. It'll be there.
Right.
It's
Right.
not going to just, I mean, it could just, look, I was about to say it's not going to just stop. Watch it not be heard again for another like 3 parts. But like, it's there. It's in the distance.
Yeah.
It's very clearly something we're supposed to be thinking about and looking toward. So I feel very confident in saying like, whatever it is, it'll be there, and we can take our time getting there.
Misra in the chat says, gotta vote for all the side quests. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna put her on blast because this delusional person was Luna Maria, and she keeps saying special bell for special boys, and I'm sure it could be something to do with the lepers that were mentioned in the post-season 5 interview. It could also be the safety coffin idea, which I'm like really into. I don't know why, but I just think that's like the coolest concept.
It's a very cool idea.
But it could be a secret third thing that none of us are thinking about, because honestly, that bell doesn't sound like a bell that would be associated with, like, it doesn't sound like an ominous bell tower bell.
No.
It doesn't sound like, it's very light.
Yeah.
And it's very, like, almost cheerful. It sounds to me like the opening and closing of a shop door.
Yeah, HD in the chat says maybe a phone, and I swear to God, I thought it was a telephone ringing the first time I heard it. And not like a cell phone, but like, I did think it was like an old-timey telephone. But no, I totally agree that the bell sound, like, it sounds to me like one of those little tiny service bells. Or like,
at the top,
like
desk.
a little tiny bell that you use to call the cats for dinner.
Oh, yes, when you pick it up and you actually wiggle it. Yeah, I really like that. I also want to point out, just because it's been on loop in my head, and it's mostly because people are using the word lure. Kane does say, in his first appearance, it was a lure, my love, when he's talking about the music box that drew Arthur to him. And first of all, I think I just miss Kane already. But second of all, I think that
he was just here.
But he was just here when he got the best he's ever been.
Yeah.
He was at his peak in 52, and now I have to go without him for another very long time. And he got so much better than he has ever been before, and I was just really enjoying him at his apex, and now he's gone. And I didn't realize how much I appreciated him until I no longer had access to him.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Yes. Bird says, it actually sounds like a bell that I use for witchcraft too. They can be used for lots of things, but I commonly see them used for sound cleansing, or what I think may be likely, summoning. That's another really good possibility.
Interesting.
I love it. I want to end today's episode by just mentioning that everybody in Poll Chat has been incredible and wonderful and amazing, and I hope that if you are listening now as a live chat guest, or if you listen to this later and we're still doing all this stuff, I hope that you pass along that the poll mines are a fun and funny place to be, because honestly, the last few days have just been a lot of memes. There is not a lot of arguing. It's a very fun place right now. So I want people to be aware that things are not always stressful and scary and intense. I know that there has been some of that. We had a little episode on Patreon, and things are much, much better now. So I really want to encourage people to participate, or at least poke your head in and, grab a friend who doesn't usually go into Poll Chat and be like, look at this funny post, or talk to them about what it was like in there. Because I think it's a really cool part of the Malevolent experience, and it's not going to be here forever. This is the last chance everybody's going to have to be able to participate in this story. And I think it's a really special thing, and we want to get as many people to do it as possible. So that's my plea. Drag somebody new into Poll Chat.
And I have one last thing to mention, and that is that we are not the only Malevolent fan cast out there. There is another one called My Sister Made Me View It. They've done a few different shows, but they're currently doing Malevolent. And funny thing, I went back and looked, and they started with the Autopsy, and My Sister Made Me View It and Malevolent started within a month of each other. At the same time. Isn't that crazy? And we had no idea.
Nuts.
we had no idea about My Sister Made Me View It. They had no idea about us. So I thought that was really
Yeah.
cool. And they shouted us out on the last week's episode, which was them re-listening to The Butcher. So couldn't have been a better episode for us to get a shout out.
One of my top favorite episodes.
Yes. And for those of you who aren't familiar with My Sister Made Me View It, it is Meg and her sister, her sister has not listened to Malevolent, and Meg is totally caught up. And so they are listening to all of the episodes. They are in season 4 right now. And yeah, they get together and talk about the episode and have a lot of fun. And sometimes they have special guests. Some of the guests who have submitted voice messages for Autopsy, I know, have called in to My Sister Made Me View It. So we just wanted to
There are only 10 Malevolent fans.
we wanted to give them a shout out in return for those of you who listen to Autopsy but have not listened to My Sister Made Me View It.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, as far as I know, we're all cool. I am very excited that there's more Malevolent fan stuff. I'm always supportive of other people doing their big creative projects, and I think that's amazing. They are also a much longer running podcast that does way other, like, more things than just Malevolent.
Yeah.
And I think they have a pretty extensive back catalog that's really fun.
Yeah.
So I fully support going to listen to them. But I don't think they listen to Autopsy, and I don't listen to My Sister Made Me View It. I know Vol has listened to a little bit, not for any personal reason, but first of all, because I'm very much like Harlan, where I'm really scared that I'm gonna accidentally be influenced
Like lift
too
somebody's
much and end
ideas,
up,
yeah.
and like lift somebody else's thing. From what I'm told, it's a very different show, so I don't think that's going to be like a huge problem. And they're listening to a back catalog where we're more focused on current stuff.
Yeah. When Meg mentioned Autopsy, her sister was like, "Oh, could I listen to it?" And she was like, "No, it's about current votes. You're not caught up." So I thought that was very funny.
Oh, yeah, I would love to. I mean, I'm always down to do whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, if they want to hang out on Autopsy, I would absolutely love to have them whenever they're caught up.
Yes.
And vice versa. I will do anything to support other Malevolent fans making their cool stuff. And that includes you guys. If anyone out there wants to make a Malevolent fan cast, I will help and support you in any way I can, because all Malevolent things are good Malevolent things.
Hell yeah. All right, I
Yes.
think...
What were some of the... I'm sorry.
Oh,
I just think
yeah.
it's hilarious.
What were the... It was...
Hold on, let me go back to the channel.
Yeah, there were some good ones. My Sister Made Me View an Autopsy was a good one. My sister's Autopsy just popped into my head. I think that's a terrible one.
My Sister's Autopsy.
Bad.
Autopsy My Sister by Nikki. Malevolent Autopsy Made Me View It. Autopsy Sisters. My sister, Mizra said, my sister made me view an autopsy. Those are really good, you guys. You guys are very clever. I think that concludes our episode. Thank you guys for hanging out so much. Really appreciate it. And another giant shout out to Vol, who has started editing episodes, which I know we've mentioned before, but like he's getting really good at it. Aww. He's super fast too. He's done our 2-parters already, the ones that we did for 51 and 52. I think we had 2-parters, and they're great, and he's doing an awesome job. So everyone give him lots and lots of like at this point, Autopsy is probably easier for me than it has ever been before, and that could not happen without Vol, Mizra, and Nikki. And thank all of you guys so much for helping me continue to be able to do this with my job and my life ongoing.
Yeah, no, it is my pleasure. I was really excited to learn a new skill, and I work from home and I work for myself, so I can squirrel away more hours to knock out some audio editing. Not to mention, it was stressing me out thinking about all of that needed to be done in like such a...
Your rodents in their spot.
Yeah.
No one's gonna get that,
Nope.
but you and me.
No.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Good night.
Thank you, of course, to Harlan Guthrie, the sole creator of Malevolent. You can find everything official at linktree/Harlan Guthrie. Without his labor of love for a story he wants to tell, we wouldn't be here. And speaking of here, if you want to be part of the live vote chat I record each week, join the Invictus Patreon and connect your Discord account. We have our own private patrons-only autopsy channel. If you want to chat with me and maybe even some other folks you hear from on the show, you can also find a public autopsy channel from the Invictus Discord so you can hang out even if you're not a patron. While Malevolent Autopsy is my pride and joy, it wouldn't be ever improving without some key players. Thank you to Mizra, Nikki, and Vol Control for their work editing and assisting with production. They do so much for the show, and they do it all as volunteers, and I couldn't be more grateful. To submit a voice recording, have your message read aloud on the show, or find us on other platforms, visit linktree/Malevolent Autopsy. The horrors persist.
But so do we.